You guys read the thumbnail. You guys already know what it's about. Know your worth.
What does that mean?
Let's break it down. If you guys are unfamiliar with buzzwords, it's basically a word that gets attention, that grabs attention, and it's a word that most people only kind of use at a surface level. So we're gonna break down some of these buzzwords, and especially one of these terms that's getting thrown around a lot that most people are not giving you the real deal on. So let's get into it. So we'll give you a few examples of buzzwords. Here's one for marketing that a lot of people use incorrectly. That's protect your investment. You tell a client, protect your investment. We're talking about cars here. We're working on cars. Very few cars are investments. I've said it over and over again, and I continue to see a lot of people not understand what the word investment means. So there's difference between assets, liabilities, investments, depreciating assets. Technically, a vehicle is considered a liability in a financial term until that vehicle is paid off. Even then, you've probably taken a loss because that value of that vehicle has gone down. So to say protect your investment by putting a ceramic coating on it is kind of absurd. Speaking to somebody who's from the financial world, you're making yourself look very financially illiterate, and you're speaking on terms that you're not too familiar with. You're showing your worth. Let's put it that way. Another one is going above and beyond. This is a this one's generic. Very, very generic term that's thrown around. We stay away from all of these terms. Maybe it's implying that, you're giving the client more value for what they're actually purchasing. Going above and beyond, you can do that, but by saying it, you kind of sound like a third grade teacher speaking to somebody who's did a little extra credit. It's very elementary, in my opinion. It's a buzz term, I would say, that people use when they, speak about, I've heard people even say it to their client's face. Oh, I went above and beyond on this vehicle. I did this and that. It's kind of language when you're talking about doing a good job. If you're going to do that type of work, make that your standard. You don't need to talk about
it doesn't have to be said.
Yes, exactly. There's some things in business that should not have to be said. Your work should speak for itself, in my opinion, in certain areas.
Do you want to be a boss? That's always one. Be a boss, CEO. People don't know what CEO stands for.
Yes. People. The ideas that people have of being a boss are completely different than actually being a boss. People say they want to be a boss until it's time to be a boss. There's a lot of things that go into being a boss. It's not just saying, oh, I have my own business. You may have your own business, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're being a boss. Being a boss is having those difficult conversations. Being a boss is having those streamlined communications with your clients. Being a boss is being able to admit to your mistakes. Being a boss is constant training and development. Being a boss is time management. Being a boss is scheduling tools. Being a boss is all those business fundamentals and all those business
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah, all the business imperatives that you need to acquire and you need to develop makes you a boss. People put the title of boss on themselves, not fully understanding what it is to be a boss or what that actually includes in the description of a job. You want to be a boss? Go to a job website and look at the job descriptions for management, for regional managers, for CEOs, for CFOs, for anyone in a supervisory position. Look at their accountabilities and look at their job prerequisites and look at their job qualifications. That's going to let you know if you're a boss or not. And I guarantee most of you who think you're a boss or who's saying you're a boss or trying to be a boss, or those of you trying to teach you, oh, I'm going to show you how to be a boss, they probably can't even break that down, and they probably don't even have those qualifications to begin with. So from two people that have been bosses, being a boss ain't what it's
not fun.
Yeah, it's not what most people think it is. It's the complete opposite. So so those are just a few buzzwords, guys, out there in the community that we're seeing quite a bit. And we're going to touch upon these later on because a lot of people are having questions about these. But for the most part, we want to talk about knowing your worth. How do you feel about this subject, Sal? Like when people say know your worth, know your worth.
I get what they mean.
Yes.
I totally get what they mean.
Yeah.
But there's another side that people just aren't hitting.
Yes, because when you hear the term know your worth, what do you think? When I hear it being communicated to people, I understand. It's almost a supportive term now. Like, hey, don't let people take advantage of you.
Yes.
Is kind of the way that it's being
Yes.
implied, when in actuality, it shouldn't be. It should be taken a little bit more seriously. You know, I think when people say, oh, you should know your worth, you know your worth. No, I get it.
I know my worth.
Yes.
The other side is you have to have other people know what you're bringing to the table, what your worth is.
Yes. And that takes work. That needs to be earned. So, for instance, if there's a mechanic out here and this mechanic comes to me and he says, oh, I charge this amount of money. And I say, okay, well, let's see what you got. And, you know, and maybe I have a question about his prices or his processes or his operation in general. And if he starts to break down to me the reasons why his worth is at this rate, and I don't feel like it's being justified the right way, you know, maybe he feels like his worth is X amount of dollars an hour because he has an employee he pays for, because he has student loans that he has to pay for, because he has a vehicle or a rig that he purchased or he has tools that he financed that he has to pay for. That's not showing me your worth. That's showing me your inability to operate a business financially. And now I'm paying on the back. Now your clients are paying on the back end for your financial irresponsibilities and your lack of understanding of operational costs within your business,
Which you categorize as your worth.
So immediately for me, your worth has just dropped drastically. So you can take that in many ways. Ultimately, the idea and your concept of your worth and your idea of your worth is not as important as the client and the consumer's idea of your worth. So you have to know where your worth comes in to them. It's not about saying, oh, I'm worth this much because I work hard. That's irrelevant. Maybe you could be doing things to make yourself work easier. You know what I mean? And all that does is actually bring your worth up. If somebody comes to me and say I have my washer that's broken, if they come to me and explain exactly what they're going to do, have the job done in 10 minutes, and the price is the same as somebody that's going to do it in 6 hours, they're in my mind, their value and their worth has gone up drastically because they're capable, they communicate, they have a better understanding of what's going on. So that's a good example of knowing your worth. And when they say know your worth, I think people internalize that, meaning they're just worried about how they view their worth, opposed to what the clientele, the consumers, the potential clients view your worth as. Because let's be 100% honest. Let's keep it all the way real. Not everybody, especially when you're starting out, is gonna find your prices worth it. And that's just the truth. A lot of clients don't find our prices to be worth it. And we've been doing this for a while and we think we're pretty good at doing it. But the honest truth is not everybody sees that. It is not worth it to them. So in their mind, that's their perception of our worth, which again, I'm going to say is far more important than what I think or Sal thinks our worth is. We're going to give you an example. I'm a big audiophile. I love audio. I love sound systems. I will pay a lot of money for high quality, hi-fi sound. Maybe I'll spend thousands of dollars opposed to somebody else who will only spend maybe $100 or a couple hundred. To me, my value in those type of items are important. They hold something to me. Therefore, the worth is different opposed to somebody else. Somebody that really cares about their car is maybe you're valuing your worth and them seeing the job that you're doing is worth more than somebody who may not. And a lot of detailers take that the wrong way. They take it as, oh, they're cheap or they don't want to pay for my service. No, you're just not worth it to them. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's okay.
That's okay. That's totally fine. Don't get down on yourself. And as we all know, every market has their sweet spots. And part of being a business owner is finding that sweet spot. Yeah, we're on the high end as far as price wise, but there's a good, you're getting a pretty good value package that comes along with our service, and there's a lot more involved than just the work itself. There's convenience there, and we're not talking about, just you being home. We're talking about convenience in every aspect. You're understanding the time we're going to start, the time we're going to finish up. You have full communication with everything. We're literally taking the work off of your hands. You literally sit back and do nothing. You don't have to go to an app and sign up, or you don't have to log in. You don't have to pick all these packages. You don't have to do any of that stuff. We handle all of that for you. So when we talk convenience, we're not just coming to you. We're doing a lot more.
I was going to add one more.
Go ahead.
No requirement for a 5-star review.
Yeah, we're not begging. We're not begging for 5-star reviews or asking. We don't want any work put on our clientele. None. And that's what keeps us busy. That's what keeps us exclusive. And that's what keeps us known for doing what we do. Knowing your worth, guys. Half of you guys are out there trying to, talking about, I know my worth. I know my worth. You may want to check that again.
That ego.
Yeah, I don't think you really do know your worth. You know what I mean? You know your worth based off of the time you put in, the training you put in, the equipment cost, the operating cost, maybe your labor or your daily overhead, the time away from your family, the wear and tear on your body. You're putting all of that into your worth.
Really personal.
Yes.
Really personal.
This is business. You have to take that out. If every business ran their business that way, everything would be so overpriced, it would be ridiculous. If McDonald's said, we're gonna tax you for emotional fatigue, you know what I mean? Because they got to deal with a lot of customers every day. If they put a tax on there saying, we're going to add on because we see so many customers a day and a lot of them give us problems and we make a lot of mistakes, so we have to charge an extra, 10% on everything. You guys would be very upset, but you don't understand, as a business owner, that's what you're doing as well, because you think you know your worth. So you got to take all the emotional stuff out of it, all the personal stuff out of it. You got to start looking from a consumer's point of view to see your worth and what your worth actually is. And you might have a wake-up call to see that a lot of people may not find you worth what you are now, what you think you're worth. What you think you're worth and what your client thinks you're worth are two different things. So don't get too caught up in people not wanting your services or begging for your services or waiting for your services or calling you off the hook. You just may not be worth it to them. Because I'll tell you right now, when I started out, my prices were a lot lower than I made my prices worth the work I was doing. It necessarily wasn't worth the time that I was putting in, because I had to develop that. That was a training. That was the development. That was the understanding of efficiencies and operations of the business that I was running. That caught up eventually. Once that caught up, then I started profiting more.
More so knowing your worth. Before you know your worth, you have to find out your worth.
Yes.
You put the work in to explain that right.
You have to establish a baseline of what the work is, and you have to find a number that works for you. I see guys out there that are saying, I'm doing this and it's not even worth it. Well, obviously you didn't establish a good starting point. If you're in establishing a good starting point is going to be, it's going to fluctuate depending on what you're trying to do with your business and how you start your business up. I see a lot of guys struggling And not, I probably watched about 10 different guys on YouTube this week talking about how they're not getting enough for what they're doing, this and that. And they're getting more than enough for what they're doing, even though they have to cut their prices in half because they made the bad financial decisions of buying a rig, doing this, financing a van, getting a custom build, spending all this money on uniforms, spending all this money on labor, having to get the best tools, all of this stuff. So of course you're gonna feel like it's not worth it. That's like me buying a house that I can't afford, and then on top of the mortgage, I get the electricity bills. I gotta pay for the pool man. I gotta pay for the gardener. I gotta pay for, my air conditioner unit goes out. I gotta pay for that. At that point, I'm like, this house ain't worth it. No, because you didn't take any of that into consideration, my man or my woman. Those are all things that need to be taken into consideration prior to starting this. So I'm seeing a lot of blame on clients, and then you hear the other guys in the community, the other guys and gals in the community saying, no, you got to know your worth. You got to know your worth. I get it. I totally get it. But some of y'all ain't worth it. Some of you are not worth it. Let's put that out there, especially when you're in a saturated market and there's 100 other detailers around you. There's nothing separating you.
I guess that's what we should start doing. Not say know your worth. Don't say know your worth. Are you worth it?
Yes.
That's how it needs to be phrased. Are you worth it?
Yeah, this is another thing, guys. When you're starting out, you could tell anybody, oh, know your worth, or you can be one of those people, oh, I'm firm on my price, this and that. When you got a family to feed, when you got bills to pay, trust me, you're gonna do what you gotta do to get that money. And I'm not saying undervalue yourself in any way. That would be something I never promote, to undervalue or overwork yourself. Here's one thing that I will say: get your negotiation skills up. Learn how to negotiate. Figure out something that's gonna be reasonable for both parties. You're both gonna be happy. You're not overworked. You're aligning the services with the needs of the client, and you guys are both coming to a happy place, and everything's good.
That's what negotiation is.
Yes.
Both parties are happy.
Yes. It's not being ripped off. It's not somebody undercutting you or devaluing you. A negotiation is an agreement that both parties come to where they're both happy, the services are provided.
Be careful though, because some of those guys are slick.
Yes.
Real
So
slick.
I advise everybody, if you're not negotiating, if you haven't negotiated, practice. Get on it. If you guys need negotiation skills, we have a whole segment in our School and training where we just role play negotiating. It's probably one of the most eye-opening segments in our School and training when it comes to business, because business negotiation on all levels of business is a big deal. When you're trying to get government contracts, you're negotiating. When you're trying to get, when you're interviewing for a position, you're negotiating. When you're purchasing a house, you're negotiating. When you buy a car, you're negotiating. When you go out of the country and you're traveling, when you're buying goods, you're probably negotiating. So a lot of the world, there's wiggle room for a lot of stuff, guys. And if you're a weak negotiator, you're sleeping on a lot of money. When you have a little bit more insight, you have a better understanding. I'm not gonna throw out that know your worth, never take a lower price, this and that. No, maybe they should. And the bottom line is, it's a lesson learned. Take that. Maybe that's what you needed to get a good understanding of your worth, a true understanding of your worth. And that's all we're trying to say, guys. We're not trying to hurt any feelings. We're just keeping it 100% real. A client is not going to pay you all the time what you think your worth is. The reason we get paid the way we get paid is because we have other clients telling new potential clients, yo, they're worth it. So our worth is based off of our client's word. And that's stronger than any kind of marketing, any kind of advertising. So that's all we're trying to say when it comes down to know your worth, because a lot of you guys don't know your worth. The flip side of the coin of knowing your worth is the client also knowing your worth. So don't think you can, just because you think you're worth this, that the client is going to say, oh yeah, you're worth that. No, you got to earn that. That's earned. That's not given. You know, you might get over on some clients, especially if you're not that nice with it. You might get over on some clients, but trust me, it's going to end up burning bridges in the future because they're going to leave. And I've done it in the past where I didn't do it on purpose, but I thought it was time to raise my prices. I thought it was this and thought I was getting better. I was progressing. I jumped my prices. I started very low and I jumped my prices. And guess what? Callbacks. Got to go fix something, this and that. When you put a certain dollar amount, the expectation also goes up with that dollar amount. You start getting into certain ranges, you start dealing with certain clientele. Those clientele have expectations that are probably higher than yours, to be honest. We have high standards, but some of our clients have even higher standards. And that's what keeps us on point. And that's what gives us a clear understanding and an honest idea of what our worth is. Is there anything else you want to throw in? All right, guys. So with that said, man, be careful of those buzzwords.
Know your worth.
Know your worth.
More so, figure out your worth.
Yes, figure out your worth. Figure it out. Hope this one helped you guys. I hope we didn't make too many of you cry. Hope we didn't make too many of you mad.
If the shoe fits.
Yeah. And if we lost some subscribers, so be it. But for those of you who really listen to this stuff and value this stuff, you guys already know. You guys are changing your business. We get calls every day. We get DMs. We get text messages. We get people calling us, thanking us all day long about how they listen to our strategies and they listen to what we were doing, how to make their business better, how to provide better service. And that's all it is, guys. So it's pretty simple. So we will have a new Schooling Them training dropping soon. So if you guys are interested, let us know, reach out to us.
All right, guys. So that's it for Sal and Joel. For details, remember to like, subscribe, and share. Catch us on the next one.